Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will compare which one is the fastest way to trigger Changli's true sight Conquest in order to gain forte stacks efficiently. Now before we start, I just wanted to mention some few things. First and foremost is that I will not include the use of Resonance Skill and Resonance Liberation, because we all know that the skill is the fastest way to trigger full sight, and the Liberation literally gives you full stacks of forte. Rather, we are comparing the alternative methods for triggering full sight, just in case the skill or the liberation is not available. Second is the use of dodge or parry will be included, however it will be mostly situational, which we will talk about later. Lastly, all of these methods will depend on the situation, rotation, and the type of enemy you are facing with. Some of these methods might not work on the boss you are fighting, and you might be better off using the other methods instead. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The first method that I will show you is by using the full basic attack sequence. This will be our base for the comparison. Now normally, basic attacks come with 4 sequences, and Changli's 4th basic attack sequence will trigger the true sight. I will have 2 timers for each method. The first timer will measure how long it takes to trigger full sight, while the second timer will measure how long it takes to fully use the true sight, as animations from each method will differ. And I wanted to see if it affects how long it takes to get 1 stack of forte. Here is my criteria for each of the timers. For the first timer, once the true sight icon appears and the attack icons has changed, the timer will stop. For the second timer, once the forte bar is filled up, the timer will stop. The second method is by doing a heavy attack. This will skip the first 2 BA sequences and will immediately go into BA3. This applies on both ground and mid-air attacks. For comparison, this is how BA3 looks like in the ground and in mid-air attacks. For the third method, we have the mid-air full BA sequence. Now, I will start the timer from the jump animation since, well, you need to jump in order to trigger mid-air attacks. For the last method, we will talk about dodge and parry. By dodging or parrying enemies' attacks, Changli's basic attack will immediately go into BA3, similar to how heavy attack works. The criteria for the first timer of this will be slightly different from the 3 methods that were mentioned earlier. The timer will start upon the start of the dodge, or when the parry hits, and will stop once the true sight icon appears and the attack icon has changed. So those are all of the methods you can use to trigger Changli's true sight. Here is all of the timer for each of the method, and the second timer is the one we will look out for, as this is the endpoint from getting 1 stack of forte. Based on our findings, the fastest method to gain forte stacks is by dodging, which is not surprising. As I mentioned earlier, dodging enemies' attacks puts Changli's basic attack to sequence 3, which is a lot faster than by doing its full sequence. On the other hand, the slowest method to gain forte stacks is by doing heavy attack mid-air, which honestly surprised me thinking that it might be the fastest, but we have to consider that I included the time it takes to jump in the timer. So, is dodging really the fastest way to gain forte stacks? Yes and no. Remember when I mentioned that all of these are situational and could depend on who you are facing with? Well, dodging is pretty much useless if you are fighting against some +1 or 2 echoes, since Changli pretty much clapped them just by using the skill or the other methods that are listed here. Plus, Dodging is completely reliant on players' skill, and if you have a massive skill issue like me, then this method might not be the best for you. On the other hand, I don't think the heavy attack mid-air is the slowest way to gain stacks. If we disregarded the time it takes to jump in the timer, it takes 2.18 seconds to fully trigger the full sight, and 3.27 seconds to fully use the full sight. And in some cases, the intro seal of the character puts them immediately in mid-air. This is the case in Changli's intro skill. This is what I mentioned earlier about all of these methods being situational. Lastly, it seems that the character animation does matter when triggering full sight, since dodging skips the first two BA animations and puts Changli's basic attack to sequence 3. And parrying actually freezes the game for at least half a second long. So the data that we see here in the parry method might not be applicable in the actual combat. So there you have it. I hope this video helps you know more about triggering Changli's full sight. And let me know down in the comments if you have any suggestions and things you want to say about this.